Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be in the world, and welcome to another scene from the living world of darkness, Rage Across New York. The scene is set to the green, up in the North Woods where the training grounds lie. And, well, I mean, 10 Point has come from an interesting and somewhat insightful conversation, and in her search for her packmate, has found that he has been spotted smiling broadly and jauntily walking about the sept. So she has politely paused to ask here and there to get pointed in the right direction, and will only just now, encased nicely in her much smaller Hamid form, be coming on the training grounds, where it seems like the soft chime of her bells is probably being completely overwhelmed by very violent noises.
Yeah, first thing she hears is just the belting of wood on wood, the clanging, repeated grunting and snarling as Aiden flies from one dummy to another, swinging quite aggressively each time, kind of spinning on his heels and just belting literally everything he sees in every direction, basically. He's shirtless as well, taking various gulps of water and then snarling and attacking things in various combos. That large club.
And being intimately familiar with the weight of said club, 10 Point will take pause, perhaps fairly wisely, a good bit away. Definitely in sight, but it would take a good running charge to get to her from where he is. And she's just going to stop there and consider her options, really.
And he'll eventually drop the club down with a thump, at his side, kind of panting, and kind of look over and see her, and just nod, to kind of give this nod, if you're going to come over type thing.
She is summoned. And look how happy she is to be complying and coming over very, very obediently, very passively. There's that every tiny sign of submission is present. There's a teeny bit of a slump to her shoulders. Her head's ducked a little bit. I mean, her eyes are always low, so that's not really a market thing. But she'll go ahead and kind of slink over to where he's panting from all the effort, and will, as soon as she gets within that respectable range, we'll go ahead and make quickly for the ground.
And when she hits the ground, he'll walk over and she'll feel the club just by the edge of her face as it kind of thumps down beside her. Omega! And she'll hear this wicked kind of smile in his voice.
Her life is regret.
How are you? How are you doing today?
Doing all right, Raya.
It's good, aye. Been up to much?
Just a conversation, Raya.
Conversation? Sounds interesting. With who? You kind of tower over her, basically.
And yeah, there's a noted pause. Like, sometimes she gives short pauses as she kind of composes her thoughts, but this is obvious hesitation on her part. Because, his mood just doesn't seem right for this conversation suddenly.
She noticed the club starting to slowly rise as well, as he's pausing.
Yeah, the club starts leaving its earthbound home, and she will just very, very passively stare off, not even at his feet. She's just off at the beyond over there. I came across William White, Raya.
There's a pause. And she will hear that when you hold on to wood too much, the kind of the tension in your hand, she'll feel that, kind of hear the little sound of his hand kind of squeezing against the back of the club, basically. But the silence is all she's met with.
I did gain some information you might appreciate, Raya.
Information, eh? From William White. And she'll hear him click his tongue almost like he's testing it. Now, what information would that be?
A name, Raya.
A name. Name of whom?
The one that he threatened to chase from you, Raya. The one you're looking for.
There will be a pause. The grip loosens just a slight bit in genuine surprise. He gave you the name of that fellow.
To give to you, Raya.
And what was that for? A gloating factor, I'm assuming, right?
No, Raya. He has regretted his actions and words. Perhaps
He's regretted,
late.
has he?
He knows that Unicorn expects better. Raya.
Oh, does he now? Does he now? And the grip will tighten. I mean, like, you can even see his hands start to shake.
You hear that grind of flesh on wood as it just tightens.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Like even the club itself starts to shake. Does he now? And he will take another casual step forward to the point where his foot is right beside her chest.
Yes, Raya.
And what was that great realization you had? Attacking some fella unprovoked outside of a challenge? Seems a bit hogwash to me. Suddenly he's sorry. And there's a deep snarl coming from when he says sorry.
Not that, Raya. A warning was given. While the action is severe, there's still a gap in rank. But for his threats, Raya.
Oh, so you're defending what he did, is that right?
Her hands come up, not defensively, mind you. She's not trying to protect any part of her body, but like in a kind of helpless, oh God, please don't sort of way. She's still laying on her back, so they're just kind of hovering a little bit above her chest. It's like, no, Raya. I merely seek insight.
Insight. So him coming up to me as I was walking home, insulted me, demanding that I follow his orders, demanding that if I don't do this, he'll blackmail me, and basically blaming me for his problems. And I simply asked, why isn't he solving his mate's problems? And he attacks me. 10 point. I don't fight back because he's a Raya. And I'm the one who provoked. The club starts to just slowly rise.
No, of course not. I never meant to imply that.
So what would you have me do then, packmate? What would you do if you were in my position?
And her lips kind of press together as she tries to, presumably tries to fathom what in the world. Because let's face it, her perspective in the world is a wee bit different than his.
And
Right,
he'll kneel down in front of her as well with this sort of savage smile. What would you do, 10 point, if everyone's eyes are on you now?
I don't know, Raya. I can't pretend to understand what you're going through. I've never been subjected to that kind of attention, Raya.
You've never been beaten like that before, 10 point. Stare at her.
I didn't say that.
You've never had your tongue ripped out.
There was rarely so specific a target, Raya. At least, not that one.
Did you perhaps think this could have something to do with the vials that they have? Maybe it was a way of trying to keep me quiet? That thought crossed your mind? He adds with a sadistic smile.
No, Raya, even without my intervention, you would have healed over time.
It's a message you see in some circles. Taking the tongue means a sign of someone who's a rat, if you get me.
She just withers a little bit, especially with him crouched and hovering right over her. She's just
Oh yeah, he's
thinking
like,
the world.
He's like staring right into her eyes. You know, it's quite like unusual for him because he never usually looks at her properly.
She is yeah, she's frantically, by the way, especially with him glaring right into her eyes. Like, she is like frantically working to not meet his gaze. Like, I am sure that her eyes periodically dart one side or the other, but she will always look dramatically offside. She won't turn her head because he might get mad at that, but she is going through all manner of things to make absolutely sure he can't accuse her of trying to meet his gaze.
And he'll click his tongue again, almost like still trying to get used to it being back there again. So maybe, along with my display at the moot, maybe this was a message, do you think? And now he's sorry. How do you feel about his apology then, Packmate?
I think, Raya, that he is simply young and foolish and in a room who gives in too quickly to the impulse to do harm. I feel that what he said to me was earnest, Raya.
And how long do you think it'll last? The supposed apology.
A thought kind of flies through her head, and she immediately, like, you can tell that a thing, a thought kind of flies across her face and is immediately shunted off as she mulls over how to answer.
He twists as he stares at her. Now, what are you really thinking before you give me the answer you want me to hear? 10 point.
She does that little thing where you draw in, like, she's not going fetal, but she's very, very indrawn at this point. He just keeps getting closer to her face.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's right beside her cheek now.
I don't think you want my answer, Raya.
Do I not now? As he's right beside her ear? And why is that?
At this point, especially if he's right beside her ear, I'm going to quickly roll willpower somewhere. I'm just gonna
go ahead.
Just gonna do that. Oh boy. I'm just gonna go into the extra dice roller and sling a roll in there real fast. What is... Okay, whatever. I'm gonna up her difficulty a bit. Oh no. Yeah.
Oh.
About time he starts whispering, like murmuring right into her ear. She starts visibly shaking.
And probably to add to his creepiness, he will thump the club right on her chest. I mean, just a gentle tap. So she'll even feel like the bits of wood, the bristle of maybe Aiden's sweat, and just feel that kind of just touch her chest lightly. Almost like he's waiting. Almost.
It was nothing, Rhea.
So you're refusing to answer me now?
No,
That's interesting.
Rhea. I imagine that while he will continue to regret his actions, he will make similar impulses if you were to cross paths again, especially if you're feeling like you are now. She's like, just her voice is kind of slowly trailing off.
Ah, so he made a threat, did he? If
No,
I'm to
Rhea.
take vengeance, he'll react. Is that it? Is
No,
that
Rhea.
what he's saying, 10 point?
No.
No?
No, nothing like that, Rhea.
You wouldn't be lying to me now, would you?
Of course not, Rhea.
You would not lie to your packmate now, would you? And that smile just seems to widen. I mean, it's like a fucking jester smile now at this stage.
She is actually, like, you know how I said before she's not like curled in the fetal position or anything? She's starting to actually kind of clinch up. She's not doing it enough to like jostle him or move him, but you know, her arms have been drawn in this whole time and her legs have started to kind of curl up. Never, Rhea.
That's good. Because I don't like people lying to me. Do you know? It gets in my head, you see. I get really angry. Like, really angry.
I know better.
Twists his head. You know better, yeah. I would imagine you do. You stand up slowly. And you kind of look at her, inclining for her to get up, basically.
There's the not necessarily a sigh of relief, but like as he gets up and away from her head and her face and her ears, she'll kind of let out a tense breath like she's been half holding it. And when she's motioned to rise, she scrambles madly to her feet.
And he'll kind of crane her head and he'll drop the club kind of down gently on the ground and he'll walk over to his bag and he'll look at her. So I have a test for you now. He'll smile.
And at this point, she's staring straight at the ground. There's not even pretending that she's looking towards him even. She's just staring straight down. Her head is bowed and her lips are pursed and she kind of like tensely licks her lips a bit. Yes,
I have a test for you. I have a test for your resolve. You wanted to be trained, we have to have a certain amount of resolve. 10 point.
Of course, Rhea.
Now I'm going to ask you a few questions, and she will hear. I don't know if 10 point knows much about guns, but she'll hear this click coming from the bag.
She isn't terribly, but even she has seen a few movies or come across other guru who had guns. So if she hears that that click click that's reminiscent of a gun, Um, she actually kind of half snaps her head up and then quickly lowers it again.
And yeah, he'll keep his back towards her and he'll click it and, slam the magazine closed and look over at her, smiling really sweetly. I'm going to test how much your resolve is. 10 point.
And let's check again and see how she's doing here. It's probably not good.
Yeah, he's totally.
Oh my god!
Oh wow, Jesus, shit. Okay, she's fine. Damn,
she
ice
is
cold.
stealing herself, and
stealing herself. Yeah.
she gives the tiniest nod, and takes a moment
And he'll walk.
and composes herself, and the trembling just stops dead. She's still staring at the ground, but she's very, very still now, very quiet.
And he will walk over with a 9mm, and he will put it in her hand, and put it right at his temple, and look at her smiling sweetly.
About time the gun is like nudged into her fingers, she starts to look deeply confused. But about time he points it at his head, she begins to look alarmed.
He'll smile again. I want you to pull the trigger.
And
right now.
Is he still is he holding the gun still, like holding it against his skull so she can't move it?
Oh yeah, basically he has it firmly, has her wrist on his, and basically putting it at his skull, and he just says to her, if you don't, I'm going to add a new notch to that club when I break your leg. Pull the trigger.
And she is going to do a dumb. She's going to do a real dumb, because she feels very strongly about this. We can do rolls if you want, but I don't think he expects it. So what she's going to do instead, and she's not going to just let go. She's not going to give a little nudge to try to push it aside. She looks up, looks him in the face briefly, looks back at the gun, and then with a roll like that, she tightens her grip on the handle, and then instead of pulling the trigger, yanks back and away from his head and throws it. Like the one smooth motion, like pull and just kind of toss.
When she pulls the trigger, she just hears the click.
No, not the trigger. She's like pulling the entire gun away from his head and pitching it instead of firing it. Oh no, indeed.
He does not stop her. The gun goes flying, and there's just a stare, this ice cold stare. Now that was naughty.
She, instead of looking straight down, is now looking straight ahead. Raya, my entire life hinges on doing the opposite of what you're asking. I can't.
You can't? Okay.
Not to you.
Walk right beside her. And I mean, he'll get his chin will hit her shoulders. He whispers right into her ear. When you're out there, you have to do everything that's what's necessary. At some point. You have to be prepared to do the most heinous of things in order to save the nation. If you can't trust that we'll all die eventually, well, what good are you?
I know we will die eventually, Raya. The life of a guru is not long. But the entire purpose of my life is to preserve yours. She'll kind of glance aside. And is he going to stop her from moving?
He kind of stares at her, very interested in what she's doing.
She moves over and retrieves the gun. And this time, holding it all by her onesies, we'll come back over, stand precisely where she was before, and lifts it and points it at her own head.
Do Do you think you can pull the trigger? Well, I'm assuming you can, because after all, and smile, you're a menace. But have you killed another Garou before? Yeah, 10 point.
No, Raya.
Well then, he'll put his hand on the gun and turn it slowly. If she resists, he'll stare at her, basically, waiting to see if she does.
Oh, she is not pointing it at him. He can point it anywhere else. But if she gets the faintest idea he's turning it towards his skull, she will plant it firmly against hers, and in fact will kind of notch it so that the muzzle is planted against an antler.
To kill a Garou, it's a thing. You have to understand that they're not all like you. They don't regenerate. Particularly if they're in this form, in a gesture of themselves.
I have not met a single Garou who can regenerate death.
I've seen some who have survived a lot worse than what we've gotten. And I've seen some that have died just as quickly. You see, it's not about all the training you're getting. It's not about all that. It's about, and he'll poke right into her forehead with his finger, just start to press down. It's about the will to do it, if you get me. You have to, the moment you put a gun right against someone's skull, you either know right then and there if you're going to take their life or not.
She gives under the shove from the finger. She isn't resisting that. The only thing she's refusing to do is point the gun at him. Raya, I have spent many years learning how to do what is necessary. But there will never be a point where anything could force me to kill you.
He'll just smile. Well done. You passed.
I was going to say, she looks very distrustful of this well done.
He'll smile wickedly. You see, I was expecting, in a way, you to be a bit more resistful, but no. You're just the way I want you. You smile even more wicked.
The wickedness of the smile is not reassuring her or in any way dispersing her very, very blatantly kind of suspicious expression. She's not casting it at him. She's not looking at him, but he can tell that she's still kind of got that half tense going, like she's waiting for the blow to land.
He'll smile at her, like as he goes to pick up the club and put it over his shoulder, stare at her.
And by now she's probably dropped the gun to her side.
Do you think you can do that with a kin? 10 point. One that's corrupted. Do you think you can pull that trigger?
I don't have to like what is necessary, Raya, in order to do it.
Liking it. I like it.
She knits a brow, kind of casts a side glance over to see if he is just completely snapped. The expression he's wearing probably does not help her assessment.
Yeah, he's smiling this big, savage smile.
Raya, the kin are the life of the tribe. You shouldn't like killing them. She dares to say.
I'm not talking about... He nods. Aye. Kin are very important. But what about ones that are corruptible? Ones that have been corrupted? What would you do then?
Raya, I know what is necessary if things pass a certain point. Every effort is made to salvage the kin. If they're corrupted beyond the point of recovery, they're put down. Same with any one of us.
You just nod at her. Maybe. And maybe sometimes it's better to put one down when you know it's not going to last.
All right, now she's glancing at him again and studying. She's actually looking at his face. She's still avoiding his crazy eyes, but there is a blatant concern.
He has this half smirk on his face. And maybe a corrupted kin is perhaps the worst sin of our tribe when you think about it. Because we're the ones who protect them. Especially us. To allow them to be corrupted, that's unforgivable, really, isn't it?
Raya, what are you talking about?
I'm just saying. Pondering. Don't you worry, 10 point. I'm just been thinking about things. Unwell to threats, 10 point, especially William White's little one. Like I said, it gets me mad.
He won't be making more of them, Raya.
Oh, I suspect he will.
Are you planning to lay a hand on his...
that he gave?
She stops and firms her lips again.
Maybe he kind of waits for her to continue, kind of raises an eyebrow at her.
Alistair Spillane, Raya. He even told me where we could find him. A general area. But enough that with a questing stone it would be easy to pinpoint. Is this not a compelling enough bit of evidence that he regrets what he said?
And what happens if it's a trap?
Then I will go in first, Raya. The questing stone cannot lie.
And what happens if this is a trap set out to eliminate our pack?
Then I go in first, Raya.
See, it brings back to my earlier conversation. What would you do with a man who has killed a kinfolk? Murdered one. In cold blood. What would you do?
She, for the sake of answer, simply rouses the gun and offers it to him handle first.
No. He smiles almost as savage, man. No, that's too quick. That's way too quick. You see this? As he lifts the club up?
She, tilts her head faintly in that direction, but she's not making eye contact with the club either. She knows every tiny inch of that thing because she carved it. God damn it. She doesn't need to look at it. It's looking at her right now.
Ever been hit by one of these things?
Yes, Raya.
Really? Raises an eyebrow, surprised.
I was raised back home, Raya.
So you know the difference between a kill and a wound, aye?
Of course, Raya.
He'll take another step forward.
She gets a little tense again. That obvious, like, waiting for the land to blow tension. Bracing.
You see, when you're killing a man... Have you ever killed a man? 10 point. And that's when he gets like right beside her again, like the Sith Lord type of thing. You know?
And she pauses a moment and forces herself to breathe in. She actually has to make a very real, very visible effort to breathe in so that she can answer. No, Raya.
Right. Never killed a person. Do you know what it's like? Do you want to know what it's really like? When you see it?
And she just kind of purses her lips, and after a very brief pause to see, like, she doesn't think he's waiting for an answer, but if he does, in fact, wait for an answer, gives her head the tiniest and most, like, uncomfortable little jerk of a nod. Like she's forcing herself to do it.
And when she nods her head, he will swing. Raymond right for the ribs.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it lands because I think I got a decent number of successes.
No, she's not doing anything to avoid it. All you need is one.
Oh yeah, no, he just, I mean, she'll feel it straight away. I think the strength's that. 10 point regenerate fairly fast. Yeah, so. I did no damage to that, but it was
I was gonna say you did it div 5 and did your +2 damage.
Oh, +2. I'll just do
yeah, you're using a club, buddy.
I forgot about the club bit.
Yeah, it's div 5 to swing that thing.
Just one. Yeah, no. I think there's my damn. Yeah, no. There you go.
Then I will just say that probably because he's standing so very close, he doesn't have a good angle to land a solid hit. But he probably still hits damn hard. It's just that he doesn't have the room to wind up, and let's face it, with a shillelagh, all the weight is like at that end. So since he's not impacting with that, he still gives her a good thump, enough to make her stumble a step or two. And I mean, of course, a hand reflexively goes up to kind of, an arm kind of jerks up to cover that particular section of her ribs. And her breath will kind of woof out.
Oh, he's going to swing again, taking a casual step back to give himself that kind of, the whoosh room, basically, the like swinging a bat. There's melee. That's one hit, so it's strength.
Yeah, he gets she has about time to give an alarmed glance back.
Yeah, she probably just see him swing again, still with the savage smile on his face, so I've done I did 4 levels of action there.
Well, in that case, what I'm going to do is say that she gets just enough time, and in her action, what she's doing is she glances back, sees him wind up for another swing, and of all the crazy things to do, she's still got that little white mouse chilling at the base of one of her antlers. And as he's winding up for the swing, she's going to reach up and pluck it from her hair and hold it against her chest and turn her back to ensure that she's taking the entire blow.
Oh, yes. She feels that thump in her back.
Yeah. Considering that's 4 levels of damage, several ribs snap audibly. And she just drops. And curls around this tiny mouse.
And you'll hear in this growly voice, crawl. Like your life depended on it. As if he points to the train dummy. If you make it to that training dummy, you'll live. And I'll stop.
Let me glance at a thing. 5 is -2, right?
Sorry, what?
Because 7 is -5, so...
Yeah.
Or pardon, 7 is out, 6 is -5.
Yeah.
So 5 is -2. How far away is this dummy he's pointing at? Like, does she have a shot in hell, especially with her being at prone?
No, not really. It's a good bit away.
Yeah, he points and says, crawl to that dummy like your life depends on it. And knowing that being up will put her in a worse position to shield her little buddy, she like takes this half glance and then curls tightly around, like, you know, uses one hand to shield the mouse right up against her body, just under the girls, like where he's in a good safe little notch, and she just curls up tightly and accepts that this is happening now. Especially considering that she's probably wheezing to breathe in the first place.
And when she begins crawling, he will follow, but he won't hit her. He'll thump beside her quite savagely, actually, you know, like narrowly missing her head deliberately. You know, she can tell it's deliberate, you know.
Oh, she's not moving.
Oh, she's not. Oh, no.
She just curls up into a tight ball around the mouse, figuring there's no way she can make that. Not as damaged as she is, even with it already beginning to regenerate.
And she will hear the, like, and then she'll feel the thump of the club beside her face. Like, I mean, like, right beside her face.
Let's see how that willpower is doing real fast.
Jeez.
I'm keeping it high def. Oh. That's not enough.
Oh.
It's not a botch, but it's a fail.
Jeez.
Yeah, he thumps it, says you're not moving, and she finally, apparently with it that close to her face, considering a hit to the head would be lethal, I guess, she scrunches, like, kind of jerks back from the impact and finally complies with these horrible wheezing breaths, because she's not screaming, but she's still producing a lot of noise just from the process of trying to get a full lung of air without, you know, the short of a rib stabbing her.
Yeah.
So
and
as that slowly is healing, yeah, she'll start slowly crawling, using only one hand so that the other can clutch her buddy.
And then we'll follow, you know, thumping beside her each time to scare her more and more. Like, I mean, it comes right beside her face, you know, as he's following, snarling like a wild dog, basically, you know.
Yeah, once she starts and doesn't immediately feel impact and sees him playing a game, which she is quite intimately familiar with the process, so once she realizes he's making a game of it, she'll actually make a decent try of getting there. It's kind of pathetic, and admittedly, given longer time, she will start knitting up more and more. Every couple seconds, she's moving a little more cleanly, and if he lets her go long enough without hitting her that she actually can draw a breath again without the pained wheeze, she's gonna kind of, instead of crawling the next step, will bring a foot up under her body like she's about to vault.
And once she brings the foot up, that's when the hammer comes down, basically. Just thump. Same again. Oh no, I forgot the fucking horse. Shit. And that's Jesus.
That's Jesus. Still 3 more.
Yeah, so it just comes down like an almighty whelp, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, she probably got right about down to bruised, tuck that foot to try to like launch the last couple feet. And as she gets the foot under her, braces to take off, it just crushes her down against the dirt, the weight of the blow. Again, there's the distinct snapping and a sharp yelp of pain.
And he will walk right in front of her, and the club will thump right beside her face down again. So he's like directly in front of her now, and it'll like take probably skims off some of her bits of her hair and stuff as it thumps down. And he will kneel down. So he's looking right at her.
And again, she, as usual, is not. She won't even look in his direction at this point. That shit's dangerous. She's just making, again, kind of whimpers of pain as she struggles to breathe while her ribs
Look
knit.
at me.
Oh, boy. She hesitates, but assuming there's not an immediate response to hesitation, we'll actually let's roll, because that's asking a lot.
Yeah, I know.
That is one success.
Oh, she did it.
So she steels herself and hesitates, certainly, but still, like, not whimpers as in nasal sounds, but like coming out vocally as she's got her mouth open to try to breathe. Finally turns her head to look at him, full in the eyes, everything.
Oh, and it's this savage expression. I mean, yeah, it's sadistic. It's quite and oddly cold. You feel that at some point? Your ribs breaking, your lungs gasping for air. Do you feel afraid?
And she's still wheezing, but she gives a tiny nod.
Does a part of you want me to stop?
And she goes very tense. She's still kind of shaking with the pain and being overwhelmed. But she gets tense. Some measure of the shaking is just disabled by how she kind of locks up. Because that sounds suspiciously like a trick question. And after a moment, she just gets an even more just pathetically defeated look and very slightly shakes her head.
Huh. Well, either you're very brave or you've accepted your death. Which is it?
And again, with the pause, her ribs have been knitting to the point where she can finally breathe without gasping. I wouldn't want you to have to stop a lesson, Raya.
It's nothing to do with the lesson, 10 point. It's to do with yourself. You see, right now, that's what it's like to kill someone. That's what you're going to feel off them. That's what you're going to see. That fear. In that last moment, you know exactly what kind of person they are, right at the end. And either you hate yourself for it, and that'll last about and you get used to it. See, right now, you're afraid, but you're determined, so I like that. And by the end of this training, you'll kill someone without hesitating. Because if you hesitate, that can cost a packmate's life. Do you understand?
And at this point, I imagine her face is fairly liberally tear-streaked because, well, there are certain things your body does when you're in horrible mind-numbing pain.
Yeah, totally.
And she just kind of frantically nods her head very sharply, very, very jerky, but, she nods her little tear-stained features.
See, the rest of them won't teach you like that. But I will. This is what being a Garou is really like. Accepting that part of yourself. When I kill, I don't hesitate. Like, there's no longer a smile, there's this ice cold stare.
Is he still
Oh yeah.
Still keeping eye locked on her?
Oh yeah. He hasn't taken his eyes off her. All like watching her every body movement, basically.
She's at this point just she may have at one. Actually, you know what? This is probably about where, in fact, just to keep it in the flow. She again, nods shakily, and she's still shaking a bit, not from pain, potentially from shock, probably from fear. And as she nods, like, how people kind of close their eyes a little bit when they nod, and when at the end of the nod, has her head kind of tucked down in a defeated fashion, but has her eyes on the ground.
Good. She'll feel him rise up. That's the end of the lesson for today. 10 point.
And in the most adorably broken tone, she will let him finish rising and then say, "Thank you, Raya."
I think I froze. Oh no. God damn it, I think I froze.
I can hear you.
Yeah. Oh, I just didn't hear what you said. It kind of went blank for me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, she just in like this horrible little broken tone, once he's roused and spoken to her, says, "Thank you, Raya."
He just nods. We'll meet as a pack and discuss what to do about this, Alistair. Spillane. But as far as William White is concerned, he'll look down at her quite coldly. I have my plans. Balian has his. We'll play nice. But we get even, you understand?
Yes, Raya.
We'll just be nice and friendly as always. After all, a smile. We're not the ones who broke a challenge. But I'll take your words under consideration. Perhaps you can mention it to the others and see what they think.
I just thought we have so many enemies outside Raya that we couldn't afford to have any inside the Zept.
No, you're right. That's why we play nice. But an act like this doesn't go unwarranted. Do you understand?
Yes, Raya.
You bring your enemies closer, if you understand what I'm saying. William White will think we're nice, think we've buried the hatchet, and when he is the most vulnerable, I'll take everything from him. And I will not hesitate. Do you understand?
Thankfully, with him standing and her on the ground with her head bowed, he can't see the shift in expressions. There's another short pause. Yes, Raya.
Good. Keep being nice, 10 point, and he'll flub the club over his shoulder. And if you want to follow me now, I'm heading home. Or he kind of raises an eyebrow. Or are you doing your own thing?
No, Raya, I'll come. She starts very
Up to you.
slowly. She makes like those first couple gestures as if she's going to go ahead and push herself off the ground, but doesn't actually do it, kind of waiting there.
He just nods at her, going, "Up to you if you're coming," kind of gives an incline of his head, and will adopt the really friendly, warm smile,
And yeah, she'll probably wait till he takes that first step or turns to move or what have you, but we'll wait until she's sure that his attention has shifted.
Oh yeah, so
and
he
then
just
we'll
abruptly turns and does the usual stereotypical swagger away.
and she'll go ahead and rouse up and finally uncurl her arm with the little mouse just chilling in her hand, and pause long enough to make sure it's okay, murmur to it, and then rouse her hand up to let it climb back into her hair onto one of her antlers. And then we'll meekly follow along in Aiden's wake. And I dare say that's probably where we end it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that'll probably be a good idea.
So I'll say thank you, players, for playing, and watchers for watching, and I'm taking willpower for this. See you next time.